Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host Holly Wharton. Ready to Bloom helps heart-centered women entrepreneurs to overcome their fears, blocks and limiting beliefs so they can be more successful in business. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute to leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more we can help women in business. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, episode 88. This is your host, Holly Wharton. I'm here with today's special guest, Lisa Wechtenhiser. Lisa of practicallyintuitive.com works with intuitives, soul-preneurs, and healers, helping them expand their gifts and build a solid business so that they stop giving their gifts away for free and make a real impact in the world. She's an intuitive herself and a blindingly clear channel to guides and teachers in spirit who are pretty awesome business advisors themselves. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Holly. Great to be here.
I'm so excited to speak with you today.
Yay, I'm very happy too. I'm a listener of your podcasts and really enjoy them.
Fantastic. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and your business journey and how you got to where you are today?
Great, thank you. I wanted to be a therapist in my college days, and that's what I sort of ended up aiming to do. And then my mother said, get a job or get out of the house. And so I got a job in a financial services industry. And that's where I stayed for 32 years, working with financial advisors, building their own business. So I have a very strong business foundation while always being curious about what makes people do what they do. My husband always jokes and says that on my gravestone it should read, "Here lies Lisa, perpetually wondering, what's that about?" Because I love to know what everything is about. So I'd say probably about 10 years ago, I found out that I was really leaning very heavily toward the metaphysical world. And so I started studying that and really delving into Reiki and healing and all of those like psychic gifts, and found out of the blue that I could hear guides and teachers in spirit very clearly. In fact, I didn't know that everybody else couldn't hear them that way. So I would say to my friends, well, just tune in and you'll get it. And they're like, no, we're not getting anything. So I learned that that is actually one of my major skills, is that I'm able to kind of hear guides and teachers speak to me as if we're all sitting at Starbucks having a chat. So I started offering intuitive readings at my guides' insistence. They are not usually insistent, but they went, go downstairs and get online and offer everybody who asks you a reading. And so I ended up doing 60 readings, 60 written email readings for people, and got really good at it. And so I started Practically Intuitive with the focus on bringing that guidance into a very practical place. And that came from, I had done a 20-page reading for a friend of mine as a gift, and I spoke with each one of her spirit guides, and she came up to me and she said, "This is lovely, and I thank you. What am I supposed to do with this information?" And I thought, yeah, what am I supposed to do with that information? And that's exactly where Practically Intuitive came from, because if you don't do something with it, it's just information, and you may as well just be tossing it out the window. So I started Practically Intuitive in late 2009, early 2010, just offering intuitive readings for people. And then I started teaching my students how to connect with their own guides and reach deeper into their intuition. That moved into my teaching others how to do intuitive readings themselves. And then that was kind of like a nice gravitational pull over to where I am now. And that is working with soul-preneurs and intuitives to create the foundation for their own business. Because it's not enough to just set up a website and go, okay, I'll offer readings now, and wait for people to come by. If you're going to make this a business, you really have to be willing to put yourself out there. And that's a really hard piece. You probably know that part.
So, Lisa, on your website, there's something I absolutely love. When I first visited your site and I saw this, I thought, oh, got to get this woman on the show. You say that you're the high priestess of the womb. And I love the woo, so I loved seeing that.
Yeah,
But so
yeah.
was it at all challenging or difficult for you to kind of come out of the woo closet and proclaim this so proudly? I am the high priestess of the woo. Was that difficult for you at all?
Yeah, it really was. Initially, I was very concerned that some members in my family would be upset about my path. And so I really kind of kept it on the down low. But once I put practically intuitive out there, I got more comfortable with it. And a friend of mine used to always call me the high priestess of the woo. And sometimes he just calls me woo. And so I always just, that title was like, yes, that is who I am. So my friend who at that point had designed my website, she's like, I'm testing out this header, see what you think. And she had that out there. And I thought, okay, well, it's out there now, so I'll just step into it. And so from that point on, I've left it out there. And now I really can stand in that high priestess energy and really open up into, you can be spiritual, highly connected, and completely grounded into your business, into your life at the same time. So I think that's kind of what that stands for to me.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And how long do you think it took in time between when you first proclaimed yourself high priestess of the woo and when you finally kind of stepped into that and felt really comfortable and powerful in that?
I'll tell you exactly when that happened. When I worked at the financial services field, one of the things that I had to do was to talk to the compliance department because I had an outside business and they have to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. And so they said, what is it that you do? And I was like, intuitive readings, and I talk to spirit guides. And they were kind of like, yeah, sure you do. Not to my face. And so I remember thinking, okay, if I get fired for this, am I okay with that? And I thought, this is who I am. This really is who I am. So I may as well just own it. And if I get fired for that, okay, that's fine too. And that was really when I just said, and this is who I am. So it probably took me about a year and a half, I'd say, from the time that I put it on my website until I truly owned it. Yeah.
I love that because I know so many women who are, speak with their guides, they channel, and they have a lot of fear about stepping out and saying that publicly for fear of what friends will say, family members will say, and that's something that a lot of people really struggle with.
And let me say this, because yes, that's true. And here's what I have found out from my students when they start out in their intuitive practice. People are a lot more interested in it than you would think. Like we kind of always think, oh, there's going to be all this judgment around, you're doing the work of Satan and whatever. And actually, when you tell people, yeah, I talk to dead people, yeah, I talk to guides and teachers in spirit, they are very, very curious. And even in my office at my previous job, we're very grounded financial advisors, they all would love to talk about that. And it really was very compelling to them. So I didn't get a lot of judgment. But I also think that comes from, I'm very comfortable in it, and I present myself as, yeah, this is what it is. And, what else do you need? Instead of, walking around with a tambourine, my whole gypsy outfit or something, I'm just me. And that didn't scare them, I think.
I like that. Now, I feel the need to ask you another question, just in case there are any people on this call who aren't quite sure what we're talking about here when you refer to guides and teachers in spirit. So could you explain to us a little bit about who are these people?
Sure. Everyone actually has a spirit guide team that you kind of contract with before incarnation. And this is my interpretation. It may not be everybody's beliefs, but it's my interpretation of what I've learned and read and spoken with, that they agreed to work with you in this incarnation. And it's part of their soul evolution. Spirit guides were in physical form at one time where, for example, angels have never been in a human form. Spirit guides have. So they really sort of understand the challenges of living in a physical world. So they know your soul's path. They know what you want to accomplish in this lifetime. So they're like trusted advisors. Most people have between between 5, 7 guides. Some come in and out. Some are with you the entire time. So I work with each person's team of guides, and we have a conversation so that somebody can understand a bigger understanding of their life and their soul's purpose. So your guides can never, ever, ever, ever tell you what to do. Your higher self can, but your guides cannot. But they can suggest a path for you that is much more aligned with where you want to go. And I have found that I'm much more successful when I listen to my guides' suggestions than when I just go off on my own. And I've had them, they're very good at nudging me going, you might want to do this thing. Hey, have you thought about that thing? Hey, that thing, go do that. And one time I blew them off. I don't know why. And boy, it backfired in my face. And all they said was, we tried to tell you. So they're very helpful advisors, is basically who spirit guides are. And I didn't know that they existed until they started talking to me. And that was kind of interesting, as I didn't grow up. I grew up in the Catholic tradition. When you don't have spirit guides, you have saints and angels and all. So I kind of recognized them as angels, but then they clarified the difference between the two.
Fascinating. So can they also provide business advice, or is this just life advice, or what kinds of suggestions and guidance can they provide?
They can provide any kind of information. I do find that guides are very helpful in business matters because they can give you a focus to look at where you might, in your human view, you might feel limited, like, oh, I'm not going to go talk to that group of people because I don't have anything in common with them. Where your guides might see it longer range, and so they can say, you might want to go talk to them and see what comes of it. So I work with them both in my intuitive sessions with my clients and in my business sessions. In fact, one of the programs that I have, it includes a channeled message from your guides specifically on what we're going to focus on in this program. And it's been really helpful to see what comes through, because sometimes the focus is not what you think at all, and other times it might be. So yes, your guides can help you with any facet of your life.
What I love about your business is that you do a lot of teaching about how to blend this spiritual and this lovely woo-woo stuff with the mundane and the practical stuff. So what would you say are your top tips on how to blend the spiritual with the mundane in your business?
That's kind of what Practically Intuitive is really predicated upon, because you really do the fifth dimension, where all of the great ideas hang out, and your guides and your teachers, that's a really lovely space. It is not the same space where you can create change. And I often liken it to, the difference between thinking about baking a cake and getting up and going into the kitchen and baking a cake. One, you have lovely thoughts of a cake, and the other, you have real actual cake, which I'm a fan of. So that's the difference. And so you have to take those ideas, your thoughts about baking a cake, and get up and go into the kitchen. And that's how you blend the two. So if you look at my top tips, or if I look at my top tips, I would definitely say if you were an intuitive, have the goal being that you help your client connect the information you bring through with actions in their life. So it's not enough to just say, oh, your aura is pink and there's love all around you. Okay, how does that help me in my life? It doesn't. It's nice to know, but it doesn't help me make a change. So, and I see a lot of practitioners have things like that on their site. We'll help you step into your fullest being. What is that? What does that even mean? How do I do that? And I think we need to really connect the two for our clients. So for me, that's a really important piece. When you look at creating a business, I would say be consistent in showing up. Send out a newsletter consistently. I attribute that to why my business is successful, honestly, because I started from the get-go with a consistent newsletter. You never want to be like the newsletter that hits somebody's inbox and they go, who are you and why are you showing up in my inbox? That is never a good thing. So be consistent so they know who you are, so that when they do need those services, you'll be the one in their inbox. You're likely to get the business. This piece is really, really important, is deal with your own stuff. as you step into this work, because the entrepreneurial path is a major spiritual journey for sure. And if you're not dealing with your own issues around visibility and, stepping into your value, what do you charge? All of those pieces bring up something that doesn't come up when you're working for a company, right? Because you say, oh, well, the policies of this company are this, and it's not about you. Where when you're working in your own business, it is all about you and how you support your client. So you're going to have stuff come up as you do that. So really, deal with your own stuff. And then the other part of that is get a coach or a mentor and get one who really understands what you do. My very first coach, and I should have known this as a red flag, my very first coach said to me, I just don't really trust my intuition. I just, it's just not a thing I even deal with. Maybe you can help me with that. And I remember thinking, oh, that's probably not good. And it turned out that she and I were not a good match, because she really wanted me to put my connection to guides and teachers in spirit in my back pocket and go out and talk to people about stress. And I thought, that's not my thing. I don't even do that. And my business completely went south because I didn't find someone who was right for me. And nothing on her. She was perfectly fine. We just were not a good match. And when I went looking for a mentor after that, I made sure that it was someone who was able to understand. My own coach is an Akashic record reader, and she goes in and looks at, is your business aligned with your soul purpose? And then she coaches you from that aspect, which is really, really super. So she gets it. She gets me. That's really important. And it's also very important that you view them as your partner and not a guru that comes down and says you must take everything off your website except 3 blog posts. I had that, and I did, and it was against what I believe. And I looked at this person as a guru. So don't do that. They're your partner. You're paying them. If something is not working out, talk to them. Absolutely. And the last piece I have to say is run your business professionally from the get-go. And I think that comes from my 30 plus years working with high net worth clients. And here's a statistic about working with financial advisors. People and clients leave financial advisors not because of the financial advice they give, but because of the client service. So that's why people change all the time. And it's the same here. If you start working with a coach and you're giving them X amount of money or an intuitive or whatever, and you're just a blip on the screen to them, then that's kind of a crappy way to feel. I wouldn't want to feel that way, and I know others wouldn't either. So start your business from the get-go professionally. Have all your emails, be in a professional tone, run your calls in a professional way. I one time had a reading with someone, and the TV in the background was so loud that I could barely hear myself think. And I said to her, it's kind of noisy in the background. And she said, oh, it's my husband. He's watching television. And I was like, oh, I'm paying you to do a reading, and you're in the middle of sitting there with the television on. It didn't sound professional to me. So always run your business really, really professionally. I think that's very key. That's very key for me. So those are my 5 that I would say.
That's excellent. I think that's really good advice. And I think that a lot of people who are kind of in the woo businesses and the intuitive things kind of may not be as grounded as other people in other types of businesses. So I think it is really important to focus on how you can be professional and also be spiritual. It's a kind of very special balance that you really need to get right.
It really is, and it's not hard to do, but if you've not been exposed to that, like I have, then it seems kind of odd. And that's one of the things that I worked with when I did my level 1 training for my professional intuitive certification. When they would do email readings, I had them start right from the beginning. Make it professional, make it warm, make it look good. Don't just send an email off to the person. They're paying you $60, $80 for this reading. You want to give them something that looks nice and professional. And that was new to many of them. But by the end of the course, they got it. They really, really got it.
Fantastic. So, Lisa, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
I do. I have a couple. My own coach, Angela Johnson, she's the one that I mentioned is an Akashic record reader. She is an awesome, wonderful coach. She really she's really transparent about her business and how she runs it. So when things shift and change, she shares that with us. So we know that it's not all just glossy stuff. It's not all just beautiful website and whatever, but she's real. She's very, very real, and that's important to me. Another person that I really, really like is Jenny She. I love her. She's so accessible and she's so down to earth, and she gives so much content on her website for free that I would love to work with her at some point. I think she's really super. And the third person that I would mention is the all-knowing Oprah, because she really brought the woo into public consciousness. And before Oprah really started talking about all of those concepts, The Secret and all of that, it was very much hidden, very, very much hidden. And she made it okay to talk about those things and to really help people understand there's nothing to be afraid of. So I honor her for being someone who was just completely out there about her woo-ness. And I love that. And it has provided me the opportunity to do the same.
Fantastic. I think that is such a great point because, as you said, a lot of this stuff, it was just so marginalized. It was just so bizarre and so weird to the mainstream population that, you couldn't even talk about it. So I think that's a very good point about Oprah. She's really done a fantastic job of bringing this out there.
Yes.
So, Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about how other women in business can benefit from working with you? You've got a number of different options on your website.
I do. What I really think I do best is helping those who, they know they want to start, but they don't even have a focus. They don't even know what you do with the website. Do you get on Facebook? What do you do? I like to take intuitives who really want to be of service to others and help them create a business that has a good foundation. So I help those who are kind of new to it to come in and really get grounded, get focused, know where they're going, and know how to help people. I didn't know any of that. I just was I'll just do readings. And as I sort of found my way, and I'm one of those people, if I don't know what something is, my butt's on Google. I'll see a word. Oh, what's that word? Again, here lies Lisa wondering what that's about, right? So I'm always on Google trying to find stuff out. And that's how I learned to do stuff, was looking at other people's sites and whatever. So I like to make it a lot easier for people who come after me to, get that in one place that is very specific to intuitives and soul-preneurs, because you're offering a service that is kind of weirdly intangible. Nobody wakes up in the middle of the night thinking, I must hear from my spirit guides. I will go now and book a session. Nobody wakes up with that, right? They wake up with, oh, I hate my life and I don't even know what to do. That's the kind of thing that people wake up with, and that's how you have to help them. But if you're offering, I can do a reading about anything, really, who is that targeting? Who is that helping? It's not. It's how I started, but it's really not a way to sustain a business. You have to figure out how you can solve problems for them with your particular set of skills. My particular set of skills is 30-some years helping financial advisors build their business, plus a beautifully clear connection with guides and teachers. So, okay, how do I blend the two? And how do I help somebody else take those skills, whatever it is that they have? They may not have 30 years in business, but they've got skills. How do I take those and help them make it real so that people get what they're doing and they understand if this is a fit for them or not?
Excellent. And you've also got a program that's called What's Possible Kickstart.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I love in the copy you say, wonder what you could do if you trusted yourself 100%. So I wanted to ask you a quick question of how you think people can start to trust themselves a little bit more, because I think a lot of people really struggle with that.
Yeah, that's true. Here's the thing. Your guides and teachers speak through those nudges that you get. So when you start paying attention to those nudges and following them, that's the key. You might get a nudge like, oh, I should have done this thing. The key is go do that thing, whatever that is. And that's really the only way you are going to learn to trust yourself is by taking action on those nudges. So, like, for example, I heard the question one time, what is something that you are completely and utterly terrified of doing, and what if you were able to do it? And I was driving in the car, and my guides floated this word in front of me that said CrossFit. And CrossFit is an extremely grueling physical activity, and to say I'm kind of a couch potato is an understatement. So I said, no, thank you to my guides. Nope, I don't want CrossFit. And they kept putting it in front of me. I was like, oh, man, I don't want to have to do this. But I did. I went to CrossFit, and it took everything I had to show up in that space. But I took action on it. And out of that action, I didn't stay there but 6 months, but out of that action came a huge shift in my life. And if you don't know those things, you don't know why you're being nudged to do this thing. Right? Because the guides don't always tell you it's because 6 months down the road, you're going to find this revelation. They don't tell you that. They just say, go do this thing. And you can choose free will. You can choose to go or not. I tried not. But I knew in the end that I needed to do that. If it came in front of me, I needed to do that. So here's the thing that I tell my students. If you ask for guidance, whatever shows up is your answer. So if I ask for guidance, how do I move into this, whatever, in a bigger way? And the guidance is CrossFit. And you're thinking, well, how the hell does that even matter? It does. So if you ask for guidance, listen to what you get. Listen to that nudge. And then step into action with it, because that's the only way you will ever know how to trust yourself. And it really takes like maybe 4 or 5 times of doing that for you to get it. You'll see the connection. I saw the connection with CrossFit pretty early on.
Thank you very much. So, Lisa, where can people find you online?
Well, I am definitely at practicallyintuitive.com, and I'm also venturing out on Instagram. I don't quite get it yet. It's like pictures, but okay. So I'm on Instagram as Practically Intuitive, and also over on Pinterest, the board there. I don't generally do a lot of Twitter because it's very noisy for me, but I am on Facebook. I have a great free group on Facebook called The Business of Intuition, where we talk about intuitive business matters. And it's a great group. It's about 200 people. And it's not a noisy group, but it's a really good focused group. So I encourage people to come find me there, but also on my website as well.
Excellent. And you also have a podcast.
I did in 2011 and 12. I did do a podcast, and I actually had several people recently ask me if I was going to start it up again. As you can see, I have no problem just chatting away. So I'm thinking about doing that, or at least doing it intermittently. But I find a lot of value in podcasts. Like I said, I do listen to yours and others, and I find a lot of value in them. And if you're somebody who is a natural teacher, as I am, it really kind of fills that urge to share information with others, because I realized I did that a lot on Facebook on my personal page, is I was always showing people, hey, what about this? What do you think about this thing? Hey, have you seen this thing? Because that's just what I do. And this gave me a focus for it. So I may start it back up again. We'll see.
Fantastic.
But the archives are on my website, all 50-some episodes. They're about 8 to 10 minutes in length, and they're all on my website.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really glad to be here.
It was such a pleasure to have you. And thank you so much for listening. And remember to visit readytobloom.com/88 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review of this podcast. Thank you.